Welcome, everybody. Welcome to all our PAD warriors to another segment of Let's Ask Kim with our CEO and our main leader, Kim McNicholas, who we all love and adore. And this is just another segment for us to ask her all those important questions that we think about that she has answers to or knows how to find those answers for all of us. So we appreciate her and we want to say, welcome, Kim. How's your week going and how are you doing today?
Oh my goodness, is it Friday yet? There's so much happening this week that I think the most exciting news is we are already set for our big third annual event in Chicago. I see some amazing folks that are in that area that are on this live stream in our live studio audience here. We're flying in. Just bought the ticket today for Douglas, our PAD Warrior Task Force Chairman. He is going to be flying in for the event. It's going to be sponsored by a medical device company, Surmotics, that makes an access device that allows doctors to go in through your arm and actually be able to tackle those blockages clear to your toes. They also have a thrombectomy device called Pounce, and they're going to be talking about that. They're going to be providing lunch. We have Dr. Romy Chopra from the Chicago area who is going to be keynoting our entire event. And he's going to be talking about the spirit of medicine. He was such a hit in our first annual event with just his amazing holistic approach to medicine and caring for his patients that he was asked to come back and this time keynote the entire event. It's going to be held at Chicago Vascular over in Schaumburg. And Dr. Parag Doshi, Dr. Mohammed El Sayed is going to be there. Dr. El Sayed actually saved the life of one of our patients yesterday. So we're going to bring the two together to share that story at this event. We do have a documentary film crew that's going to be there interviewing patients about their journey. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. Can you tell?
Yes, and we're all looking forward to it. It's a great opportunity for all of us to get together and meet in person instead of just like this and share our inspiration, hope, courage, and strength that we do daily through
Yeah.
all our walking program, our PAD program, and all the groups, and doing Tai Chi on Mondays, eating together on Fridays. So it's going to be a great opportunity for us to get together. And I look forward to seeing Dr. Chopra again because I really enjoyed his his holistic approach that he thinks about things.
You know, it's really exciting that we were just talking before this even began that, and you reminded me when you mentioned the Tai Chi with our Tai Chi certified Tai Chi instructor, Marsha Burr, who's also here, and she's also a PAD warrior, and Rebecca, who's here, and they're in the Florida area. And there is a conference that I just found out today, will be attending over in Orlando, Florida. And so we were just pre-planning having an event there as well. And that will be hopefully what will become a first annual in Florida. So many more events to come. Really excited about just the year ahead and getting together in person to have the impact that we already have virtually.
I'm looking forward to getting everybody down here to the great state of Texas with me. I'm ready for that one. So, with that thought in mind, let's kind of. I would like to start let's jump off into the deep end real quick. So we know you kind of started this about 5 years ago through a process of what you went through. And in those 5 years, what do you believe today is the hardest thing you face today with doctors and patients and getting people to the right place and everything that you go through on a daily 24 hours a day basis?
I think it's still dealing with those doctors that argue for their own limitations, that are not adopting advanced tools and techniques, that still use, for example, 2013 data that say it is not worth treating patients' small vessels below the knee. And yet there are so many stories of patients that say, I don't care that it's not durable. I would rather have a revolving door of treatment. I would rather go to the vascular doctor just like I go to the dentist and just as the plaque is cleaned off my teeth. I know it's riskier, I get it, but I would still rather go by the same token to the vascular doctor to have my plaque cleaned out of my arteries twice a year if possible as well. Innovation is moving at the speed of light, and the doctors claim to be practitioners. You are practicing medicine. And for those doctors to actually say that there's not enough evidence to say that those techniques work, why are you not a part of the contingency to work on creating that evidence, work on creating more effective tools and techniques so that we can save more legs?
With that, so that goes exactly to my second part. We also know you have an amazing rapport with doctors around the world. You really do. And you've developed that over this time. What is the thought process of you get, because we know you sit in a lot of operations and you get to see this and that rapport that you develop with those doctors. How do you go about doing that, and what does that mean for us as patients with you?
Initially, when I started on this journey in 2016, as a journalist following a device company's journey through FDA clearance and global commercialization, I had just a very unique experience being on the front lines with with hundreds of doctors in nearly a dozen countries, more than 30 states, watching thousands of hours of these procedures. And I think the key for me was these doctors already had the respect for me as an Emmy Award winning journalist, and they loved having the camera there. They loved teaching me through the camera, talking to the camera, teaching every single move that they were making with every single device and their thought processes sees behind every single move and every single choice of device. And so I would take that back to my place and I would watch these videos of these procedures over and over and over again to the point where I would be able to talk the talk and be able to ask them more intelligent questions and be able to use the lingo and say, hey, doc, looks like you're using really high barometric pressure with that balloon. Aren't you afraid of perforating? Are you not coming from that school of thought, a less is more approach? Why not just kiss it with a balloon? Just kiss it. And that is a clinical term. I mean, it's a fun term. It's the lingo that the doctors use. Just kiss it with a balloon. Just tap it. You ever watch Happy Gilmore? Just tap it in. Just
Yeah.
tap it in, a little tap, tap, tap. Just kiss it with the balloon. And so I think it was through that process of being able to learn, being on the front lines and having these doctors really teaching me what was happening. I think that truly helped create a foundation for me to have a more intelligent conversation with these doctors that would command respect. I've had many doctors that I'll start the conversation with and they'll start talking to me as if I know absolutely nothing. And then I start throwing in some of the lingo. I'll start saying, "Hey doc, you know what? You're dealing with a no stump SFA. You're trying to just come down from the top. Why not do a little retrograde approach? Go retro, doc. What do you think? Access through the popliteal or into the peroneal. I'll break that down for you. But basically, the doctor's like, what? How did you know no stump SFA? Like, how did you know that's kind of what we call it? So, and that's basically, I'll just explain. A no stump SFA is basically when the doctor can't figure out where the vessel you see kind of an area where the blockage there's a blockage, the vessel's cut off, but you can't quite tell where the vessel actually goes. You don't know if you're going to end up in a collateral. You don't know if the vessel's over here or over there. You just can't tell. And so a lot of times what ends up happening is I've seen doctors here in the US that they will then do a stick into the calf or behind the knee and they'll come up and approach the blockage from the bottom where they do see where the artery is. And then it just kind of the devices kind of find their way up and tell them where the actual vessel lies. And I remember when I was in Nancy, France with the chairman of my organization as part of this journey, and the doctor had one of these no stump SFAs, and suddenly he starts taking his gloves off, and my chairman says, "Hey, why are you stopping, doc? Why don't you just try retro?" And he's like, "Retro? What's retro?" And he's like, "I'm just going to send this patient to amputation. I don't know anything about that." And he turned around, he's like, "Does anyone here know what this retro thing is?" And this other doctor was there and he's like, "Oh, I've seen it. I've been in the States. They do it all the time. I can show you how to do it." He went in, went retro, came up from the bottom, opened up that vessel and saved that patient from amputation. So, it's through those experiences that I'm able to say to these doctors, "Hey, I've been there, I've done that." We have doctors that'll tell me, "Hey, you know what? You've been in more procedures with more doctors around the world than I ever have." Even though I see hundreds of patients and do these procedures all year long.
Did you
And so
ever
I think that really
imagine
helps me.
Could you ever imagine where you started your career with Mark Cuban, NASCAR, football, all the things you've been through? Today, you standing in an operating room, fully scrubbed out, watching this happen
Yeah.
today and where you are.
I could never have imagined what having a true purpose or finding your true purpose in life truly means, because this is mine. I would have never imagined. At one point, I think I remember thinking that I wanted to be a host on Good Morning America, and that was really the goal. Or I wanted to be at one point the Maria Bartiromo of, the stock exchange and work for CNBC. I wanted to work for ESPN at one point, and I was working my way up the sports ranks, doing sideline reporting for the Pac-12. And as you mentioned, racing, I had my own racing show. But as you can tell, I mean, I really, when I set my mind to something, I immerse myself in it. But I don't see myself changing directions for the rest of my life because I know that this is my true purpose. And I've never been in a situation where literally I don't even want to go to bed at night. And I can't wait to wake up in the morning and almost wake up, partly through the night at different times, checking my phone because I don't want to miss a call. I care so much about each and every person that is at risk of and has this disease that I want to make sure that I'm there for them every step of the way whenever they need me most.
Yeah. So, and Marcia and I were talking about this before we started, was like the doctors. How hard is it, or that thought process? Why can't a doctor be a plumber or an electrician at the same time? Why can't he do surgery? We have to, with PAD, we have 6 different doctors now, and what we all go through and what you see on the sideline with having to go to this doctor or that doctor and answering the phone, realizing somebody's in, just say, Kalamazoo, Alabama, getting them to the right CLI specialist. That can be hard, can it?
It is a lot of work, and so many factors go, through my mind, as I am, helping a patient decide what doctor might be best for them. You mentioned there are quite a few practices that do treat peripheral artery disease. One of the most important practices is actually endocrinology, getting glucose under control, making sure the diabetes is not going to advance any further and cause more damage to the arteries, whether it's the legs or the heart. Then you have vascular medicine. I love vascular medicine doctors. Cleveland Clinic has a great vascular medicine program for these doctors that really focus on the more conservative approach, and it's a more comprehensive conservative approach with medicine and lifestyle modifications that a vascular medicine doctor may provide. You do have basic where they only do vascular medicine and only practice that. Those are few and far between, but you do have other doctors that might be a cardiologist or interventional cardiologist that has that additional education as a vascular medicine doctor. Now, there's also vascular surgeons. There are interventional cardiologists and interventional radiologists that also treat peripheral artery disease. And each of them has their pros, their cons. What we look for with these specific docs is who has the most advanced skills, but not only that, who has the best skills that are appropriate for this patient's individual presentation of disease, their insurance, their location, their personalities. So much goes into helping a patient decide what doctor is best for them. A lot of these companies want to have doctor finders on, and societies and industry all want to have these doctor finders on the websites, and patients go to them, thinking, oh, well, this doctor has this particular device. I'm going to go to them. They must be good. But it doesn't mean they're good. It might mean that they're using that device. It might mean that they belong to the society, that they're paying to belong to the society. But does that mean that that doctor has a practiced skill set? You mentioned Marcia, who's here today, and we had the conversation today following her consult with her doctor. And the doctor actually called me today and said, oh my gosh, I just read the notes from this other doctor. This other doctor that we originally sent him to, he is advanced. This doctor is completely advanced. But maybe this doctor isn't as advanced as the current doctor that we have her getting a second opinion from. And this doctor was like, I thought that doctor was better than that. I've even worked with this doctor before. And a lot of times these doctors don't know even the skill set of their colleagues or the extent to which they can treat. I see it all the time. The doctor's like, "Oh, my partner's going to do this patient." And I said, absolutely not. Have you watched them? Oh no, they must be good. They have this degree, this pedigree. They go to this conference and speak on podium at this conference. And I'm actually saying I've actually been in these procedures. I have seen them perform. I'm comparing them to the most advanced, to the most advanced, to the most advanced in the world. And I'm talking to the patients and I'm seeing their outcomes.
Do you see that in, we talk a lot about like hospitals compared to outpatient centers. Do you see a big difference in the two with the doctors and what they're able to do or not do?
You have amazing doctors in both hospitals and office-based labs. It's just sometimes we don't have a preference either way. I do find that it's a lot easier to navigate and expedite care with the office-based lab versus, for example, we had a patient that well, I'll go ahead and say, so we had a patient that had already been referred to a vascular department at a very large hospital, university hospital, and that patient got a bad feeling. She's a very faithful woman, and she got a bad feeling about going to this particular vascular surgery department. And so her sister ended up finding the way to my heart, and we were able to get on the phone with her. Actually, Douglas, you answered this phone call yesterday from our Leg Saver hotline. And so I
Yep.
followed up and I had a different doctor in a different department. He was an interventional radiologist. This patient has advanced stage PAD, critical limb ischemia, and so it's very serious. She has pain that wakes her up at night, and so we need to be very careful. We need to make sure that we get the patient to a specific person. Well, this interventional radiologist said, "Oh my gosh, there are too many politics here in the hospital. You have to make sure that the patient cancels that appointment if she wants to come see me, and don't go to that consult because." If they go to that consult and then the patient wants to see me for a second opinion, I can't do that because it's going to seriously cause me trouble. And so you don't see that as much, let's say, in an office-based lab. You do also have to worry about, though, in an office-based lab that they might not be monitored or have as much accountability. So you do have to make sure to check the skill set of these doctors and talk about their volume of cases, talk about their outcomes, talk about their skill set, and make sure that an actual procedure is appropriate for you, that you have exhausted all minimally invasive options, you've been put on the right meds, you have been through a lifestyle modification program, especially a walking program, to before you actually do have a procedure, because once you start the clock, you keep having to have them. So, but easier to
How
navigate the
frustrating
office-based labs versus the hospitals
how
sometimes.
frustrating is that to go through? Because I want to bring Marcia in with her what you were saying and what she was thinking about. I like this doctor, but why couldn't he do this? Now I got to get a second opinion. How frustrating is that to go through on a daily basis?
I think for Marcia is wishes that the first doctor, right, Marcia? You wish the first doctor would have done it right. But when that first doctor says, you know what? And you even went through two of them, and they're like, there's nothing we can do. We next step is we're just gonna cut off your leg. But at least when we got you to the other advanced doctor, that was a stepping stone. So this disease is progressive, right? And sometimes you just need, you get the stepping stone and then you get to the next stone, you stand there, you get what's there, and then you have to take another step onto another stone. Um, you know, even the best of the best sometimes need a second set of eyes on it. Sometimes a doctor may have literally exhausted all that they know how to do and they could be completely advanced, but then maybe another doctor, such as in this case with Marcia, that this other doctor has different tools and different techniques because he's involved in different research studies with different medical device companies. And so while one facility might not have, for example, the new Abbott Esprit biodegradable stent that is increasing durability for some of the below the knee artery work to open up those small vessels. But this other doctor has it. So maybe she might have a different outcome. Right, Marcia?
Yeah, and one of the things that puzzled me about this whole thing is that, well, forget the first doctor I went to, because he was a vascular surgeon who basically said, live with the pain or chop it off above the knee. And so then I found you, and you referred me to a good doctor. He knows advanced techniques and stuff. And it kind of felt like the last procedure, he just sort of gave up on me. And when I got to my third doctor, he said, yes, I think I can help you because I think you have a venous problem also. So my question is like, well, why didn't this other advanced doctor consider that and take some step? Like, why did they stop? I mean, was that the second doctor didn't have enough experience with the venous side of things? It's all connected. I'm going to quit
It's a
calling
really
it
good point.
PAD. I'm going to start calling it PVD, because
That's a
it
good
really
point.
is
It
PVD.
is, and we see it a lot. We see a lot. Most of the patients who have PAD, which is peripheral artery disease, they have chronic venous insufficiency where there's damage to the veins, and maybe the vein valves, the flaps aren't working as well. And we see that especially a lot in the arterial patients because, if you have lackluster flow going south, well, you can imagine that going north, it's going to start getting a little sluggish, and maybe some of those valves might get a little lazy as well. And so Dr. Craig Walker over at the Cardiovascular Institute of the South, who runs a prestigious conference called New Cardiovascular Horizons in Louisiana every year, NCVH. I heard it first there from him that he was telling all of the doctors that chronic venous insufficiency was truly underdiagnosed in PAD patients, and that every patient who comes in with PAD should be evaluated for chronic venous insufficiency, and that should be monitored because, as in Marcia's case, she had the arterial flow restored, but then it started pooling because it couldn't get ushered back to the heart fast enough. So it started just pooling in the foot and leading to a lot of swelling and a lot of additional pain. So it's really important. We see this a lot with doctors. Sometimes they're just plumbers and the clinic says you have PAD, you have this symptom, we're going to treat you, and they kind of leave it at that. But you do need to advocate for yourself and say, hey, I have PAD. Should I be evaluated for chronic venous insufficiency? It's as simple as an ultrasound of the veins. And it's good to check that even before you have a procedure on your arteries.
That's a great lead into this question too. 5 years ago to where we are today, how much have you seen change between the doctors and the technology from where you started and what you see today and where you see we're going in the future?
It's moving at the speed of light. And that's why I always tell people, you know what, it's worth exhausting even all current efforts to save your limb, because every single day I feel like there's a new technology, there's a new technique being developed in PAD. There's so much interest in so many companies around the world. And there are things coming to me behind the scenes that I hear that cannot be made public, because I've been doing this since 2016. I feel as though I have some great sources in the industry that are able to give me some information I can lock in my vault until it's allowed to be released on so many new things that are coming our way and going down the pipeline. It's pretty incredible. I'm excited about where we're going with it, and it can't come soon enough. I mean, from where I started back in 2016, to where we are now, things are just moving at the speed of light. Whereas, there were literally, I mean, 90% of doctors refused to treat below the knee 5 years ago. I think that's improving drastically with new tools and techniques, particularly. I don't know if you were here for the What's Up Doc on Tuesday with Dr. Kumar Madaseri, talking about what's called a deep vein arterialization, the new Hail Mary of all Hail Marys for people who have basically what's called a desert foot, no arterial flow in the foot. They can actually now hijack a vein and kill the flaps inside the vein and put a stent in and usher blood flow through the vein, which normally ushers blood flow north, and have it actually usher blood flow south to help heal the wounds in your toes, which is huge. And I think because of that, more doctors are actually willing to treat people below the knee. And I think that's huge.
Yeah. Marcia, you have a question?
Yes. Considering all this new technology, which is at the speed of light, I mean, we're on the golden age of medicine, we're in it. Have you heard of any new possible procedures that address micro vessels? I mean, that's like, I hear that's the end. We can't do anything in micro vessels.
So there are a lot of different types of superficial technologies, but we had Dr. Mariano Polania, who's one of the most advanced interventional radiologists in the world, one of the pioneers alongside interventional cardiologist Dr. Marco Manzi for the most advanced techniques in treating peripheral artery disease. And he was actually saying in our What's Up Doc, and you can find his interview on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Way to My Heart, and go to our What's Up Doc playlist, look up Mariano Polania. He was talking about the fact that he just thinks that a lot of this microvascular disease talk is just a farce. He always finds that there's an artery that you can open that will improve the situation.
So I want to lead off into this one. This is an interpersonal question for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
We hear all the bad stories about all the good and the bad. So do you realize what an impact you do make? And how does that feel? Like yesterday, we had an individual in our group go through a procedure, and it turned out great. You realize you do that every day with different people across the universe. How does that feel, and where does that lead you, and what is your inspiration in that?
I never really have time to sit there and rest on my laurels. I do have to take moments, to appreciate, this gift that I feel that I've gotten to assist so many people in saving their life and saving their limbs. We don't always have success, but we will exhaust all efforts. Sometimes people come to us too late. But what's so rewarding is the trust that people have in me to allow me to be along their side in this journey, and to trust in me to be their partner in care in this fight to save their life and their limb. the individual you're talking to, I'm looking at him right now here in the live studio audience, and I will tell you that I was in a situation where I was MC. You mentioned I've done sports before. So I was an MC for a celebrity golf tournament to honor a longtime mentor of mine. So I couldn't not be there. And I was standing beside, and this individual who I'm looking at right now doesn't even know this. I was standing alongside, a couple of these celebrities, John Taylor and Toy Cook, and getting that information that he's saved was just like, I just let out a yelp, and I tears, flowing, because each one of you means the world to me, and your journey is my journey. And those who work with me on a daily basis, like, I am 100% invested, both physically and emotionally. I care so much. And so in those particular cases, I'm all in, and I get emotional with them. Our friend Marcia here today, 1,000% completely, she knows, all in, invested in this whole thing. She heard a few expletives this morning as I was describing my frustration with this other doctor not rising, to the occasion, and actually stating in the notes. I mean, I couldn't believe he wrote this, that why are we going to go and do this again and save her leg when it's only going to close back up, as if her leg is not worth trying, and not, keeping, I mean, this revolving door going. It's frustrating, for me, but rewarding to then be able to save her, her, hopefully, with this new doctor. But it also, what is so rewarding to me is when I say, you know what, I got this doctor. This is the person that I would go to save my leg. And the patient goes out of their way to drive that extra hour, or to find a ride to drive that extra hour, or to work with me on having me support an Uber to get them there. But they're willing to go the extra mile and be their own best partner in care to save their leg. Our friend Rebecca, who's on here, is another one that she and I have been on a very long journey together, a very long journey. And I've just, it's been such a blessing to watch her get her life back. I mean, I can't tell you how many nights up late I'd get her texts, and she'd be in dire pain, and having no one else to talk to that understood. I mean, your family doesn't understand the excruciating, debilitating nature of this disease, and that I can be there for every one of you, and that you trust me in being there, means the world to me. No joke.
Well, I'll tell you, I continue to be blown away by you, Kim. I really do. As you know, I'm a fairly independent person. I have a fair amount of intelligence and, some knowledge of the medical field, being a retired X-ray tech. But I know enough to be dangerous when it comes to all this vascular stuff. I mean, I worked in an ER. My main thing was taking, pictures of bones, or going in the OR and running fluoro, things like that. And the vascular system is quite complex, and everybody's tree is different. And it took me a few turns to realize just how serious and dedicated and passionate you are about saving lives. And it was a good wake-up call for me to say, you know what? Quit being the caregiver. It's time to learn how to ask for help and support yourself. And you provide such a feeling of confidence and warmth that I can't imagine anyone not trusting what you say. I mean, as you said to begin with, you've seen more procedures than many, many other doctors. So thank
Yep.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for continuing the fight.
Darn
Yes,
right, darn tootin'.
darn tootin'. Alan, you got a thought process there?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank him again. It's repetitive, and she helped put me back where I could start walking again. I think I'm breathing well, and feels a lot different than I did a day and a half ago.
I can hear you, your voice, everything sounds different.
Yeah. Yep. Even just walking is completely different. I can't go back to exercising for another week, but I think it's going to make a huge difference in just my quality of life. And I wouldn't have been able to have this done if I had accepted what my local cardiologist, two of them, had said. And I just said, I'm not, let's call Kim. She'll have an idea.
Yeah.
She always
And
does.
he got in the car that afternoon and drove 2 hours in Chicago traffic to go see this doctor. This doctor was like, well, if he's willing to come in today, I'll squeeze him in. And if he's willing to just wait because I have a full clinic today. And he got in the car and started driving. It was amazing.
Yeah,
You're a huge fighter.
I think you were even driving during one of our Zoom meetups here, and it was raining to boot, as I recall. So talk about a warrior. Way to
Interesting.
go, Alan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got
We've-
there
we've
and it's done.
we've been in a lot of situations together, haven't we, Alan? All of us, you know.
Yes.
And
Yep.
we got
So she's not
we-
even just saving legs; she's saving hearts now.
yep. And we got a visitor we hadn't seen in a while. Frank from Chicago's here. Hey, Frank.
Hey,
Hey, Frank.
And
how
Frank,
are
we're
ya?
hoping to see you in person. We're hoping that you and your lovely bride will confirm to actually be there so we can meet in person.
Sure, we're this close to confirming. So just
We're
give me
depending on you. We're gonna come over and pick you up and drive you out there.
well, it's not that far now that I looked
Good.
it up. So
Perfect.
it's possible. Hey, the question is, have you ever stopped to count the number of leg savers in the worldwide network? I'm just curious about how many doctors are involved in this effort.
Wow, it has grown so much where it when I first started, it was dozens, and we would send patients hours away to where we're at now. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of doctors. I mean, I even think that we're closing in on 1,000 doctors that are now a part of our network that we're that literally are advanced trained in tools and techniques and committed to limb salvage. And we're meeting more and more each day. We just got an introduction from, and it's amazing. A lot of these device companies have sales reps that or clinical reps that are inside these procedures with doctors, and they know our criteria. They know when these doctors are truly pushing the limits and saving limbs. And I just had a call today from someone, one of these reps, and she said, hey, do you mind if I introduce you to a doctor in South Dakota? He meets your criteria. He watches you and follows you on LinkedIn all the time. So he knows you well, wants to meet you, wants to be vetted by you. And he's in, I think it's called Rapid City, South Dakota. And so we connected today. So we might be able to bring him to you next Tuesday for our What's Up Doc series. So we're getting new doctors every day. And I end up attending all of the major conferences, as many as I can, to meet new doctors around the world. On our advisory board, I mean, we have more than 40 doctors alone from across the globe that are helping to advise me, helping us every single day to find new doctors in every single country who are committed to limb salvage. We even had, if you were here for our What's Up Doc, we had the doctor from Italy that is going to Spain now to educate those doctors on how to actually save limbs in the most advanced ways. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's awesome, isn't it, Frank? That what she started 5 years ago to what she's created today with all of us tagging along with her.
Right. I'm very impressed, and I'm always thinking of the next goal. And in this context, it would be how many more doctors qualify, meet criteria, and can join the ranks? And how big could that number be? So that's my
Honestly,
take.
I think that the goal, I would love to see I think every doctor serves his or her purpose or their purpose. I think that they all have value. They all have an expertise. Sometimes the doctors don't know what they don't know. You might have a doctor that for example, have a doctor in Michigan. He is brilliant with iliac arteries and aortas, and he is amazing, but he will tell people that nope, you have small vessels below the knee that are blocked and there's nothing that can be done. So just walk until you get a wound that won't heal and then we'll amputate. But man, this doctor is incredible when it comes to any bypasses. I mean, if I needed an aorta bifemoral bypass, I would go to him. If I needed anything minimally invasive in the iliacs or in the aorta, I would go to him. He is so good. But the issue is that these doctors need to call it and say, you know what, this is my specialty. I focus on aortas. I'm going to leave the limb salvage to another doctor and be willing to refer and give up the patient to someone else who is passionate about feet, who have foot fetish, right? And want to keep people's legs. You like that one? I just came up with that. That have a foot fetish. That's going to be our new. Do you have a foot
Yeah,
fetish, doctor?
we
Yes,
got to be
that's a
careful
good
where
one.
that one goes. So we're running out of time. We know you have an appointment. So I think all of us cannot begin to explain what you mean to us and what you do for us on a daily basis, 365 days a year. And just realize you are the tip of the spear and you are making a difference in the whole process of how we deal with PAD. And I see you becoming really even more engaged in the CAD part too. So I see you learning there.
Thank you,
So,
Alan.
so you realize you really do make a difference. So when you lay down at night, just remember you do make a difference. And we appreciate your inspiration, your hope, and your courage. And we thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'd love to do this every week. And maybe next week we can focus on some of the stories of my travels around the world, which might be kind of fun if you guys want to hear some of those journeys and some of the good, the bad, the ugly journeys around the world and visiting some of these doctors.
Thank you, Kim. Great show.